One night, in a small village amidst many rolling hills of sand, with no plumbing, with no lights, with no concrete houses, the people gathered around to witness the last birth to occur here before the next 1,000 years would pass. As the shouting and the panic subsided, the elder stepped forward and furrowed his brow, trying to think of what the boy should be called. His loyal yet timid advisors rose to suggest, "Perhaps Azar, for his birth marks the death of our village." "No," said the elder, "his gift should not be defined by our loss." "Perhaps Adolfo, for only the strong will survive our journey," said another. "No," said the elder, "our coming problems will not be solved by fighting." "Well, maybe Adam then, because he'll need the gods' assistance," said one more, somewhat frustrated. "Tai," said the elder. "Tai?" "Yes, Tai. Let him make his own meaning. We have all been named for what was expected of us, and we all worked to meet those expectations, and look where we are now. We have only a few years left before we go west, before the sands reclaim what belongs." "It shall be so then," one advisor said before scribbling on some papyrus. As the years progressed, many of the village people wondered what they would find when they had to leave, if anything at all. They looked on in wonder, with the skies above seeming just as vast and mysterious as the desert expanse ahead. Tai eventually grew to be rather uninteresting to the village people as he grew into adolescence. Unsure of his purpose, he kept to himself, often walking along the edge of the village barrier well into the night, looking for any sign that his life had meaning. As the village's last year came to its last month, a terrible sandstorm swept across the village, eroding the foundations of homes, signifying that the end was near. Tai was ready to move on, but much to his interest he noticed something beyond the east end of the village barrier, far beyond the peak of the now smoother silken hills. The top of a pyramid in all its majesty stood dormant in the sand, lit by the stars and moon above. Despite its distance, Tai could see its beauty from the barrier, its condition magnificent and its size almost incomprehensible, even to the gods. Its very existence a sign that Tai was not alone like he thought. Riddled with youth and excitement, Tai stepped over the barrier and felt his body shiver and his legs sink into the shallow pool of sand. Determined to see what was ahead, he dragged his legs through the sand, grunting and sweating as he climbed the dwarved hills. At the top, he gave himself a moment to breathe, and he stared off at the marvelous buildings around the base of the pyramid, structures of strange stone, lit with stars and surrounded with lush yields of green chasing the slithering path of a great and glittering stream. Tai quickly raced to the village elder and his advisors, and in the commotion, many of the village folk woke up and formed a small crowd to see what the last-born boy had found. But upon rushing back to the edge of the barrier, they would not follow him. Angrily, the quiet boy shouted at the village people, "What are you afraid of? What have we to lose?" The village elder frowned and banished Tai from the village, so he turned east and crossed the barrier, much to the concern of the quiet village people. Tai walked into the night, forcing his legs to move against their will. His body ached and his fragile frame already missed the comfort of the village. But eventually he made it halfway to the pyramid, and realized that he could not turn back. Not now. Finally, Tai stood before a creature twice his height and looked up, unafraid to progress even when the journey seemed impossible, even when it seemed it was at its end. Osiris looked down upon the boy and smiled, comforting Tai within its frigid grasp. Here, a new village was created, one unlike the village before or after Tai's path. One with some plumbing, with some lights, with some concrete houses, and in honor of Tai, the village people built a small pyramid and planted a small garden. As the sands began to close in on the village, a child was born whose name would not be planned, whose purpose would not be told for a very long time. And as the shouting and the panic subsided, the village chief stepped forward and asked the mother what her child should be called. For a moment she paused, rubbing a finger over the baby's head. "Tai," she said. "I wish to call him Tai." "Then it shall be so," said the chief. "Then it shall be so."